I caught my wife cheating on me and I got revenge. My wife started volunteering at the animal shelter back in March. Seemed like a good thing at the time. She has always loved animals. We have two cats she practically worships. So when she mentioned wanting to help out with the strays and abandoned pets, I was all for it. Good for her, you know. The first few weeks were normal, nothing out of place or suspicious. She would go for a couple hours on weekend mornings, come back smelling like wet dog and disinfectant, complaining about how sad it was to see all those animals without homes. Sometimes she would get emotional, talking about a particular dog that had been there too long or a litter of kittens someone dumped in a cardboard box. I felt bad for her because she takes that stuff to heart. But somewhere around the 6-week mark, things shifted. The 2-hour weekend thing became 4 hours. Then she started going on weeknight sessions too. When I asked what was up with all the extra time, she said they didn't have enough volunteers and really needed the help. Fair enough, except the details started getting weird. She never came home smelling like animals anymore. No fur on her clothes, no stories about specific dogs or cats, just vague mentions of helping with intake or organizing supplies. And her phone, Jesus, the phone thing should have been a red flag from day one. She used to leave it laying around everywhere, screen up, notifications going off constantly. Now, it was always face down when she was home. Always. She started taking calls in another room with the door closed or outside on the porch. If I walked into a room while she was on the phone, she would wrap up the conversation real quick. Said it was just boring shelter stuff, nothing I would be interested in. The whole thing felt suspicious, but I could not put my finger on why. Could have been nothing. Could have been me overthinking everything like usual. But my gut kept telling me something was wrong. 2 weeks ago, I decided to surprise her with lunch. She had mentioned they were having a particularly busy day with new arrivals, so I figured I would bring her favorite sandwich from Burger King. Called the shelter first to make sure she was there. Big mistake. The lady who answered was super nice, said visitors were always welcome. But when I said I wanted to bring lunch for my wife, she got quiet. She asked for my wife's name, put me on hold, came back and told me my wife was not on the volunteer schedule. She had not been on the schedule for over 2 weeks. Something about reduced volunteer needs due to budget cuts. I got off the phone thinking, why was she lying to me about volunteering? Where the hell was she? Who was she with? What had she been doing all those afternoons and evenings when she said she was cleaning kennels and walking dogs? That night, she came home at her usual time, around 7:30. Started telling me about this aggressive pit bull mix that had given everyone trouble, how they had to reorganize the cat room because of overcrowding. Every single word coming out of her mouth was a lie. She looked me right in the eye and lied about her entire day, like it was nothing, like 10 years of marriage meant nothing. After finding out she was lying about the shelter, I started watching everything, every detail of her routine, every story she told me, every excuse she made. I was looking for more lies and I found them. She came home with a small scratch on her arm and said a cat at the shelter had gotten aggressive, but I knew she had not been to the shelter that day. Where did the scratch really come from? She mentioned helping with a fundraising event for the shelter next month, asked if I wanted to donate anything. Another lie built on top of the original lie. How could she keep this up without showing any guilt? The woman I married would have cracked under the pressure by now, would have confessed, or at least shown some sign that she was struggling with the deception. But she seemed completely comfortable lying to my face, like it came naturally to her now. I tried testing her with small questions, asked about specific dogs she mentioned working with. She would give vague answers or claim they had been adopted. Convenient way to avoid having to provide details about animals that did not exist, at least not in her life. 2 days after I called the shelter, my coworker Dave gave me another piece of the puzzle. We were having lunch at work when he mentioned something that made everything click. Saw your wife at that old bookstore last week. She was in the coffee section with some guy. Looked like they were having a serious conversation. Didn't want to interrupt, so I just waved, but she didn't see me. That old bookstore was in the opposite direction from the animal shelter, 20 minutes away from where she was supposed to be volunteering, and she was with a guy. That night, I asked her how her day went. Same routine about difficult animals and cleaning tasks. I asked if she had stopped anywhere else during the day. She said no, came straight home like always. Another lie. But this one told me she was not just skipping volunteer work. She was actively meeting someone, spending time with another man during the hours she was supposed to be helping homeless pets. The lies were not just about avoiding volunteer work. They were covering up something much worse. I started paying attention to other details I had missed before. Her car was always warm when she got home, not just warm from a 10-minute drive to the shelter. Engine heat that suggested longer trips. Time spent somewhere that required driving around for a bit. She showered immediately every time she came home, even on days when she claimed only to do paperwork. But you might need one after spending hours with someone else, especially if you were trying to wash away evidence of where you had really been. Her phone behavior got more extreme. Never left it unattended anywhere in the house. If it made any sound while she was in another room, she would practically run to check it. But when I was around the phone, it stayed completely silent, like she had trained it to behave differently depending on whether I was watching. Someone who could construct elaborate lies about animal welfare while she was really having secret meetings with another man. I had been married to her for 10 years, and I was just now seeing who she really was. Or maybe this was who she had always been, and I was too trusting to notice. Either way, I knew I had to find out more. I had to know exactly what I was dealing with before deciding what to do about it. The lies were just the beginning. I needed to know the whole truth. I decided to find out who the guy was. Dave had given me enough information to work with. That old bookstore, coffee section, serious conversation. The place was not that big, so if they met there regularly, someone would remember them. I went there after work on Wednesday. I told the staff I was looking for my wife, who sometimes came in with a friend, described them both based on what Dave had told me. The older woman behind the counter knew exactly who I was referring to. "Oh yeah, they come in pretty regularly," she said. "Usually sit in the same spot near the old philosophy books. Seems like they have a lot to talk about." She said they had been coming in for about 3 months. Always the same time of day. Always stayed for a few hours. Wow, 3 months. Right around the time my wife started her extended volunteer sessions. I asked if she knew anything else about them. The woman said they seemed close, but she minded her own business. She did mention that the guy sometimes bought books, and she had seen his name on the credit card receipt. She could not remember the exact name, but said it started with a J. John or James or something like that. I thanked her and left. Now I knew this was not some casual friendship. 3 months of regular meetings. This was an affair. The next part was figuring out when and where to confront her. I considered asking her directly, but I wanted to gather more information first. I didn't want to be a hothead and lose my temper. I wanted to know how deep this thing went, but I had to maintain my composure while doing so. A few days later, I got my answer in the worst way possible. My wife got food poisoning, or at least that was what we thought. She woke up feeling sick and spent the morning throwing up, called in sick to her job, and said she was canceling her volunteer session. I offered to stay home and take care of her, but she said she just wanted to sleep, told me to go to work and she would be fine. Around noon, I got worried and decided to check on her. Called the house phone and got no answer. Tried her cell and it went straight to voicemail. Maybe she was sleeping, but something seemed off about it. I left work early and drove home. Her car was not in the driveway. The woman who was supposedly too sick to get out of bed had gone somewhere. I sat in my car for about 20 minutes, trying to think of an innocent explanation. Maybe she went to the doctor. Maybe she needed medicine from the pharmacy. Maybe she felt better and decided to run errands. But I knew better. She was meeting him. Even when she was supposedly sick, she could not stay away from this guy. That told me everything I needed to know about how serious this relationship was. When she got home around 4, she looked fine. No signs of being sick all day. I asked how she was feeling, and she said much better. Said she had slept most of the day and was finally keeping food down. I asked if she had gone anywhere. She said she went out to get something to eat. However, looking around the house and the trash can, I didn't see anything to indicate that she had gone to get something to eat. So she was lying to me again. But this one hit different because it showed how important this guy was to her. More important than her marriage. More important than being honest with me, even when she was supposedly too sick to function. That night, I made my decision. I was going to find out who this guy was and confront both of them. But I needed a plan. Something that would give me all the information I needed to decide what to do next, whether to try to save my marriage or end it. Right now, I was leaning toward ending it. 10 years together, and she could lie to my face about being sick so she could meet another man. That was not the kind of person I wanted to be married to, but I needed proof. Something concrete that I could point to when people asked why I was getting divorced. Something that would make her family understand why their perfect daughter was not so perfect after all. I started planning how to catch them together, how to get the evidence I needed to end this marriage on my terms. I planned it for the following week. She had a volunteer session scheduled for a Friday afternoon. By now, I knew she would be at the bookstore with her boyfriend. I called in sick to work that morning, told my wife I was feeling under the weather and would probably sleep most of the day. She bought it completely, even made me soup before she left for her fake volunteer work. The whole caring wife routine while she was heading out to cheat on me. I waited 30 minutes after she left, then drove to the old bookstore, parked across the street where I could see the bookstore entrance. Her car was already there. So was a black SUV that was parked next to her car. Had to be his. I sat there for about 30 minutes, working up the nerve to go inside. Part of me still hoped there was some explanation. Maybe they really were just friends. Maybe I was reading too much into everything. But I knew better. You do not lie to your husband for months about friendship. Finally got out of my car and walked across the street. The same older woman was working behind the counter. She recognized me and pointed toward the back corner. "Your friends are over there," she said with a smile. I smiled back at her. I walked toward the philosophy section and saw them before they saw me. My wife was sitting close to some guy with dark hair. He had his arm around her shoulders. She was leaning into him, like they had been together for years. They were looking at something on his phone and chuckling, completely comfortable with each other. This was not some new relationship. This had been going on for a while. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds just watching them, trying to memorize what my marriage looked like when it ended. Then I walked over and sat down at their table. "Hey, honey," I said, "how are the animals at the shelter today?" My wife looked up with complete shock. Her boyfriend just looked confused. "Who is this?" he asked her. "This is my husband," she said quietly. The guy looked like he wanted to disappear. Started gathering up his things like he was going to make a run for it. "Sit down," I told him. "We need to talk." His name was Jake. He worked at the insurance office in the same building as the bookstore. They had met when she came in to ask about changing our car insurance. That was 3 months ago. 3 months of this relationship, while I thought we were working on our marriage. 3 months of lies about animal shelters and volunteer work. Jake claimed he did not know she was married at first. She said she told him she was separated and getting a divorce. Only found out the truth a few weeks ago, but by then, he was already attached. My wife just sat there saying nothing. No apologies, no explanations, no tears or begging, just silence, as if she were waiting for me to finish talking so she could return to her real life. I asked Jake if he knew she was still sleeping in my bed every night, still playing house with me while she was playing house with him. He looked sick, Apparently, she had been telling him I was staying with friends while we worked out the divorce details. More lies. I told him he could have her, that I was done trying to figure out what was real and what was bullshit. Stood up and walked out of that bookstore, left them sitting there to deal with the mess they had created, drove home and started packing her things, every piece of clothing, every personal item, everything that belonged to her went into garbage bags. By the time she got home around 6, everything was sitting on the front porch. I had changed the locks that afternoon. She knocked for about 10 minutes before she figured out I was serious. She tried calling my phone, but I had blocked her number. Finally gave up and loaded her stuff into her car. I never saw her again, except through lawyers. The divorce was final about 8 months later. She married Jake about a year after that. Heard they moved to another state. Good for them. 10 years of marriage ended in the damn coffee section of a bookstore. But at least it ended on my terms, not hers. My commentary: well, another man that did it right just kept digging, got what he needed, and divorced her. Simple, and he didn't resort to violence.